let's start out with obviously College Game Day is headed down to Norman, Oklahoma, which if you look at the matchups, it kind of makes sense. You have two teams in the top like 20. There wasn't really any other matchups that were really that great per se. So, what are your thoughts kind of headed into this game? Because you have two teams that have high expectations, but also two coaches that are kind of in big situations.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. Well, I'm not going to be able to see much of it because it's at the. I didn't realize they were both starting right at 7:30, but it'll be. I'm sure it'll be a good game. I'll be checking. I'm sure Spartan Stadium will be giving us score updates throughout the night, but it'll be a good test for both of them. I mean, they Oklahoma played Illinois State, Michigan played New Mexico. Neither of those teams are really gonna push those two powers to the limit, so it'll be cool to see how they match up so early in the year.
Yeah, and I truly think it's a really big game for both of them, especially for Oklahoma, not only because obviously Brent Venables is their head coach, but they're coming off of a 6-7 season in the SEC. Like things aren't going to get any easier for Oklahoma from this game on. Like they're going to be playing your Alabamas, your Auburns, your Ole Misses. And then you also have the homecoming for Sharon Moore going back to Oklahoma as well. So if you really think about it, this is probably for both of these teams, one of the biggest early games that they have this season because it can really point to the success that either of these teams might have this year.
Yeah, no, for sure. And you want to see first big game early in the year. You want to see how players are going to rise to the occasion, especially a guy like Bryce Underwood, a true freshman quarterback. It'll be Yeah, it'll be a big game for sure. It'll be we'll find out a lot more about Michigan and Oklahoma too, I guess, than we did in the first week.
Yeah, and you talk about Bryce Underwood, and we got an interesting QB matchup. We got Bryce Underwood, obviously, freshman quarterback. I think you could maybe argue that he was one of the better freshman quarterbacks that made their start week one versus Washington State transfer John Mater, which, if you know anything about Washington State, they like to throw the ball quite a bit. So it's going to be an interesting matchup. So, how would you feel about kind of the quarterback matchup? I know you talked a little bit about Bryce Underwood obviously being a freshman going into Norman, Oklahoma at night, biggest opportunity he's ever had. Do you think he's going to rise to occasion because he looked pretty decent, pretty good against New Mexico, but this is not your New Mexico. This is not the big house. This is Norman, Oklahoma in the prime time.
Um, I I don't know. We'll see how Underwood does. I mean, I didn't see the whole game on Saturday night, but from what I did see, it looked like he made a couple great throws. The one little slip out of the shadow of their own goalpost, perfect touch ball. But like you said, and Venables has always been a defensive guy from Clemson, correct? I believe
Yeah.
he was the DC there, so he's always. I'm sure he'll have some elaborate scheme to try to get Underwood off his game early because, like we're saying, it'll only be his second game. He was playing the Detroit Catholic Centrals of the world only 9 months ago. So if they can get him off his game early, you never know where it could go from there with a freshman QB. It could completely derail Michigan's entire offense.
Yeah, and obviously confidence is a big thing, making sure that he doesn't make any mistakes. But then you also have to look on Oklahoma's side of things and just how physical this game is going to be. Because if you really think about the SEC as a whole, it's really physical at the offensive line, defensive line, front seven. Like it's going to be a test for them as well. Like it's going to be about who's maybe the more physical team, but then you have the matchup between Michigan's run game versus Oklahoma's defense. Like we know how good they were with Justice Hayes, Jordan Marshall. If Oklahoma can shut down the run game, do you think that's really the biggest difference in this game is going to be that defensive line, that front seven versus Michigan's run game? Or do you think because of a Bryce Underwood, maybe it's not going to be that much of a difference than maybe it has been in the past?
No, I think it'll definitely probably be come down to that because you just got to think of it from Michigan's perspective. I mean, Sharon Moore, there's no way he wants to put Bryce into a spot where he's got to throw on third and long to bail out the Wolverines all night. You're going to want Haynes to get going. I mean, he averaged just under 10 yards a carry last week. We'll see. I mean, Oklahoma's returning starters on defense. You'll see how they can limit. I'm sure they'd love to limit them to 2 yards, 1 yard on first and second down. Then they can heat up Underwood, bring some pressure, and really speed up his clock in the pocket.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's really the biggest difference of this game is you really can't allow Michigan to really have those big runs because I think that was really the biggest difference in the game between New Mexico and Michigan was those big runs by Justice Haynes. Jordan Marshall didn't really do a whole ton, but if Oklahoma can prevent those big runs, those 50, 60-yard touchdowns, then I really think that's going to put a lot of pressure on a Michigan team, again, under Bryce Underwood. But then you look at guys like Marlon Klein, Donovan McCulley. Like, those are two guys that were his main targets. But the only issue is last week, they had drops. Like, drops cannot happen in this game at all if Michigan wants to win. And they're going to really have to have those guys step up, in my opinion.
For sure. For sure. And then I think on the flip side of it, you gotta wonder what Michigan's gonna try to do to prevent Oklahoma's pass game from going all over the place. Because like you said, is it Mater or Mateer? I don't know, whichever.
Mateer, I was just going to
Mateer.
say, I probably completely botched his name
Yeah, I
knowing
don't
me.
know. I we'll go with Mateer, I guess. But he went for almost 400 yards, 3 touchdowns, did throw one pick, but I mean that's explosive, and that's something that I mean Michigan traditionally recently has done well right now against good quarterbacks like the Ohio States of the world and stuff like that. But again, it's a new season. We don't know how they're going to fare this year. I think it'll be interesting to see Mateer spread it around to three receivers for Oklahoma had 88 or more yards, and one of those is actually Dion Burks from I believe Belleville, right? Belleville High School initially, and then went to
Yeah, I think
Purdue
so.
and now off at Oklahoma. So yeah, he spread it around. They only averaged 3.2 yards a carry on the ground against Illinois State. So that's advantage Michigan off the page right there. But we'll see what Michigan does defensively.
Yeah, it's kind of that interesting connection between Michigan and Oklahoma because I believe there is a Ferris State player that transferred from Ferris State to Oklahoma for a year, kind of near
Yeah,
being from
yeah.
Michigan, and then obviously ended up transferring back to
Back to Ferris.
Ferris State. So there has to be a little bit of that connection between Michigan and Oklahoma, which I don't know exactly where that came from. But yeah, I definitely agree, especially the running attack for Oklahoma. They really were led by a freshman, which is really unique in college football per se. You don't really see a lot of freshmen really leading an offense, but you also saw a little bit of John Mateer being able to use his legs. So maybe that will help a little bit. But if you really look at what Michigan's weaknesses was in the first game. One was dropping passes, like you can't do that. But two, New Mexico was able to attack that secondary when they had time. The real question of that is when they had time. There are sometimes they didn't have time, sometimes it was a clean practice. I think that's going to be another huge test for this Oklahoma offensive line is making sure that John is protected. But when he has time, they were able to attack the secondary, which is unusual because it really seems like this secondary has been pretty good. And I feel like if John has time to attack the secondary, I think this is going to be maybe an offense that can put up quite a few points on this Michigan defense. And they do that, it's going to be a real question of can Michigan catch up?
Yep. Yep. For sure.
So yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting game. I'm going to be definitely at least keeping an eye on it. I don't know if I'll be watching it for the whole thing, but definitely keeping track of the score. But what's your prediction for this game? Obviously, College Game Day. Everyone's going to be eyes on it for the most part. It's going to be live TV. Like, who do you think wins? Do you think it's a close game? The over under, I believe, is like 5.5 is the spread. Do you think Oklahoma covers it? Do you think Michigan wins? Where are you at with that? With your background, I think I kind of know where you're going.
Um, Trying to be unbiased. The spread, I think it's right around there. I think it's one. I don't honestly see Michigan winning. I think that's a tough environment to go into for a young team. Team that I don't know. I don't know. I'll say Oklahoma wins and covers, not by a ton or anything, but they'll win by 7 to 10 or something.
Do you think this game for Oklahoma is bigger than it is for Michigan? Because I think it currently is for Oklahoma. I think it's much bigger for Brent Venables and Oklahoma than it is for Michigan at this point.
Yeah, in Venable's case, for sure. I mean, he's hasn't done nearly what's expected of an Oklahoma head football coach, so it hadn't carried the recent success as well at all. So yeah, I guess it is bigger for Oklahoma, but just being in state, it always feels like it's going to be a big game for Michigan.
Yeah.
Sure that.
And what's crazy is Venerables went 6-7 on the first year, 10-3, then 6-7 again. So it really truly feels like he's kind of, I don't want to say on the hot seat,
No, I think
but
that's fair. Honestly, I think yeah, I think
yeah.
that would be fair to say.
Yeah, he needs this win more than Sharon Moore, but I'm sure Michigan fans would be happy with a win. But I don't know, I don't know exactly the way it's going to go. But I think Oklahoma will end up winning this game. I think we'll see Bryce Underwood make a mistake or two. I don't think there's not very many quarterbacks, especially freshmen that start that don't make a ton of
Yeah.
mistakes. I think he might make his first or second mistake that might end up costing Michigan. But hey, Brent Venables basically said that he kind of see um, Bryce Underwood being special, kind of see him like being a Trevor Lawrence type quarterback. He's seen a lot of quarterbacks, defensive coordinator at Clemson. So definitely going to be an interesting matchup there.